Zach Bronstein, welcome to the BlockHash podcast live once again. How are you? What's going on?
Doing really well, Brandon. Good morning. Thanks for having me on. Excited to chat with you.
Yeah, excited to have you here. Where are you based? Where are you from?
Yeah, so originally I'm from New Jersey, but currently based out of Westchester, just north of New York City.
Oh, what's Westchester like? I don't know anything about New York or upstate New York or anything outside New York City.
So if you're in New York City, it's often referred to as upstate New York, even though it's less than an hour drive, kind of from downtown Manhattan.
Hmm.
But basically, just like a nice mixture of like city living and suburban life.
Okay. What's the weather like? Is it like that perfect New England weather people talk about? That awesome
I,
seasonal
I
weather?
wish it's
No?
been quite hot recently, although it's a lovely day today. Occasionally we do get some nice weather, but it's been like 85 plus for a while, so I don't have a ton of positive things to say about the weather of late.
Okay, okay. I'm in Miami right now, so I have nothing but positive things to say about the
Yeah, there
weather.
you go.
Cool. So yeah, let's before we talk about endowment and jump into all the nitty-gritty stuff, tell me about, yourself, your backgrounds. Like what is it that you did before this, leading up to endowment? Like what's your story in the industry? How did you decide to get involved in blockchain?
Yeah, great question. So my involvement at Endaoment really began in a volunteer capacity back in about August of 2020. Before that, I'd spent the last 5 years doing finance at Morgan Stanley, and my goal there was really to get a job to kind of cut my teeth and make life a little bit difficult for me. Challenge myself to really grow my financial acumen. Before that, I guess my background is really entirely in the nonprofit world. I worked and volunteered at various nonprofits. I was a teacher. I was a tutor, trying to combine those two words. And now, I finally found an opportunity to kind of put these two sides of myself together, this financial curiosity alongside impact investing, doing things for the good of the community.
Very cool. Very cool. What was there like anything in particular that got you like excited about blockchain that made you want to get into this space versus any other space?
Yeah, so Robbie Heeger, who's the endowment CEO, approached me back last summer, and originally this was just to chat about cryptocurrency generally. We were in the beginnings of a really exciting time to be in the market, and I think Robbie just kind of approached me as someone who he knew was really interested in finance, and also someone who was kind of growing tired of working at a big Fortune 100 finance firm where I kind of just get slotted into a role and go through kind of general work practices every day. Learning about cryptocurrency, learning about really the decentralized nature of a DAO was probably the most exciting thing to me. And I think that finding ways to combine the world of philanthropy and the decentralized nature of the way that everything crypto and blockchain is run is really exciting, because what I've seen in the traditional world is that you have a large company, they have some philanthropic element, and just a couple people at the top get to decide where all of their funds or where all their effort gets to go. And if instead you have a DAO that is participating in something related to philanthropy, it's actually going to be quite representative of where all the members of that DAO think their assets should be put to good use. So that was the thing that really excited me about the space, made me interested. But to be perfectly straightforward, it was this philanthropic element that got me excited about entering blockchain, and specifically the Ethereum blockchain space.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways philanthropy and blockchain, come together and intersect, and DAOs are definitely one of those intersection points. Remember the DAO hack? Like, geez, it seems like ages ago.
Yeah.
In like 2016, I think. So like 11 and a half years ago. Or sorry, not 11, 5.5 years ago. Oh my
Feels
gosh.
like 11 and a half years
It
ago,
feels
right?
like 11 and a half years ago. Or like five and a half years ago. Um, what have DAOs like progressed like since then, like meaningfully progressed to the point where it's, actually um, useful and you don't have those types of concerns where, it's going to fall apart and stuff because it's endowments built on top of Ethereum, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I guess maybe they have, because it's not an area that I've followed too closely since then. 'Cause it's kind of put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth for a long time. But you know, do you see, DAOs having improved quite a bit since then to, be more fitting as a use case for stuff like this?
I think they have, and I think that the DAO hack, while like not fun to be a participant in or really to watch, you feel bad that this is happening. Certainly, if you lost money, you feel even worse. But I think it was a rather educational moment in the kind of building process for DAOs of the future, right? And something I like to say a lot is you learn a lot more through failure than you do from success, right? It actually tells you that you need to change something about what you're doing in order to get to the place you want to go. So in the last 5 years, I think that DAOs have improved. I'm certainly interested to see where they continue to go, but look at the way that something like Snapshot is used to kind of organize the way that voting happens at a DAO, right? Look at the way that DAO structures, be it the Spartan Council over at SNX or any of the other like larger, more robust DAOs, come together to make decisions and really like fine tune the rules of the DAO itself to determine what can we make decisions about, what can the DAO not make decisions about. And I think the name of the game is really determining, what kind of decisions can be made by this decentralized entity that is not just easy to do, but makes more sense to kind of distribute the responsibility for making that decision, as opposed to some other decisions that for one reason or another can't be kind of spread out for the community. Maybe it involves some kind of PII, maybe it involves some kind of, insight into the code that is not public, right? But it's just about determining, what can the DAO be responsible for and what can it not be responsible for. And for all of those, it can't be responsible for things, thinking creatively about ways that you can actually move that over to the DAO category and say, actually, this is something the DAO can maintain ownership over and we can move away from as the leadership team.
Why Ethereum? Why not, build it on top of another blockchain out there? Are DAOs, just better served being ran on Ethereum as of right now? Or is your heart with Ethereum, or like why Ethereum and not another blockchain out there?
So I'll give you the personal reason, then I'll give you the business reason. The personal reason is that Ethereum is the most exciting space to be in. It's where the developer energy is. It is kind of the up and coming blockchain, as it were. I guess it's pretty big currently, but it is with
bit.
Ethereum. Yeah, it's trailing behind the Bitcoin market cap. It's kind of chomping at the bit to be number one. But the business reason is really because we wanted to be close to the DeFi space. We think of ourselves as DeFi's, on-chain 501c3 community foundation, allowing folks who are able to deploy their assets in DeFi, earn a whole bunch of yield, and they want to do one of two things with that. They want to make a donation because they really care about impact, and that's really the motivating factor. Or they want to take some long-term capital gains asset, appreciated asset, donate that asset and offset some of their taxable income, right? So by being close to the DeFi space, one, we get access to all these folks that have lots of kind of growing assets that they're suddenly able to do, new and interesting things with. And in addition to that, as we grow out our programmatic offerings, we're hoping to kind of link in, like be puzzle pieces that fit together with the other DeFi projects and protocols. So you could do things like, and now we're getting, into the future, not into what Endaoment can do now, but you can do things like dedicate the yield earned on a specific platform to your donor advised fund at Endaoment automatically, right? So there are a lot of interesting, exciting integrations that we can do because we're on the Ethereum blockchain and because we can kind of link up with that DeFi space.
Yeah, Ethereum is definitely still the largest blockchain out there outside of Bitcoin if you remove it. A lot of activity is still happening there. So I guess that does make a lot of sense. And, hopefully, Ethereum gets better and faster and cheaper in the future and can hold on to that spot. It's got a lot of competition out there. But let's talk about Endaoment a little bit more. What's the main purpose of Endaoment, or what's like the goal for Endaoment? What are you guys trying to accomplish in the space using DAOs, using philanthropy?
Yeah. So our mission is to encourage the philanthropic giving of cryptocurrency assets. Just really straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
There are tons of cryptocurrency assets, right? It's a ballooning asset class that has kind of exploded in market capitalization over the past couple of months and couple of years. And we want to help link up folks that have these cryptocurrency assets with nonprofits that typically are not set up in any way to receive cryptocurrency donations, right? So what are we? Like I mentioned before, we're really the first completely on-chain 501c3. We offer the ability for folks to make donations on our platform, receive some kind of tax deduction if appropriate in their use case. And our mission is a little bit different from other donor advised funds, right? Our mission is about throughput, and we define success as getting money out the door. If you'll indulge me for a minute to talk about why we're different from a Schwab or a Fidelity donor advised fund provider, right? Their model is we charge somewhere between 2 to 4% per year on assets under management that you have in this account, right? So they're directly incentivized to make it really easy to get money in and make it really hard to get money out. That's how they make money. We didn't like that model. We wanted to flip the way that donor advised funds work on their head. So what we did here is we decided to be the lowest cost donor advised fund provider in the country. Essentially, we take 50 bips, so 0.5% of all donations that come in, and we take 100 bips, 1% of all grants that go out. So that's just 1.5% fee on all dollars as they move through the firm, right? And another important statistic is that at a traditional donor advised fund provider, typically you see donor advised funds drawn down by about 22% per year. We have a record so far of about 98% of assets flowing out in the same year that they came in. So, we are really trying to emphasize getting money out the door to nonprofits, not just having it sit in a donor advised fund account, right? So our goal to come back to your question is really to make sure that we are making it simple and easy, one, for our cryptocurrency friends to come on our platform, to open up a donor advised fund and to make a donation into that donor advised fund and to get a tax receipt for making that donation. And then two, for nonprofits who are receiving grant recommendations from Endaoment to have a really easy time essentially claiming their organization and getting the money transferred into their bank accounts directly.
Okay. Uh-oh, hold on.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Brandon, I can't hear you. Still got nothing. Cool. Does this mean I'm the host now?
How about now? Can you hear me?
Perfect. Yeah.
Thank God. Oh my God. Okay. Well, that's
The
never
pitfalls
happened
of technology, huh?
before. I know. I have this this P4 pod track for my XLR pod mic for my Rode, and it just, I don't know, I think the battery just died.
Good timing, right?
I know, great timing. I have to leave it plugged in the future. Anyways, where were we? Where did we just leave off?
So we were just chatting about generally like what's our mission? What do we think of ourselves as? What do we provide for our users, kind of thing?
Okay, yeah. In terms of like your users, like, can anyone set up a fund with Kickstarter? Or is it like Kickstarter? Can anyone set it up, something like that with Endaoment, or are these funds generally tailored to specific nonprofit organizations, or like how flexible is it if someone want to set up a fund?
Yeah, great question. So to answer your question super directly, very flexible, anyone can set up a fund. Let's dive in and talk about what that donor flow actually looks like. So you are a crypto native person, you have an Ethereum wallet. That Ethereum wallet has some amount of Ethereum in it because there are going to be a little bit of gas costs that are going to come up here. So you do need some of that, Ethereum in your wallet. Basically, all you're going to do is you're going to approach app.endaoment.org, right? You're going to come onto the website and create a fund, right? To open a fund, all you actually need to do is pay a small gas cost. Essentially, what we do on the back end is you give us a little bit of Ethereum, that gas cost. We go out there and deploy a donor advised fund contract, a fund contract, essentially. That fund contract is only accessible by the wallet that created that contract. So your wallet, right? Once created, you can navigate to your fund page at any point, and you can use currently we're only using Uniswap, but we're very close to integrating SushiSwap liquidity as well. But basically, you'll be able to use the modal on your donor advised fund page to directly donate into that fund any one of about 150 different types of cryptocurrency. We also take a couple of them kind of over the counter that are not native in the app if they're not ERC20 tokens, right? So you take your cryptocurrency, you donate it into your donor advised fund. At that point, two things happen immediately. One, we email you a receipt for that donation saying, we just received a donation in this amount of US dollars, because we give you a US dollars conversion, make it really easy for you, your CPA and the IRS, right? And we let you know that this is, potentially a tax deductible donation. I should say it is a tax deductible donation in the full amount if it is a long-term gain. If it's a short-term gain, you're limited to cost basis, but we're getting kind of now really down to the nitty-gritty. The second thing that happens at the moment of donation is we go out there, like I said, to Uniswap currently. Soon you'll have the option to choose Uniswap or SushiSwap. But we go out there and we liquidate your gift for US dollar coin. We take US dollar coins, we leave them in your fund contract. At that point, you're able to use our site to search any one of about 1.5 million different US-based 501c3 nonprofit organizations. 501c3 is just a specific code of nonprofits. It essentially means that it is a public benefit corporation that is non-governmental and non-religious in nature, and also is not a lobbying entity, right? So there are about 1.5 million in the US that are in good standing with the IRS. You can search our site, you can look for those organizations, and you can recommend a grant to any organization you want, right? Once you recommend a grant to that organization, funds, the USDC funds, will be transferred from your fund contract into their org contract. And you can think of their org contract essentially as an escrow contract, right? This is where the funds will sit while we onboard and wait for the nonprofit to accept the grant recommendation. If they accept, we transfer the funds over to them. And if they don't accept, we send them back to your, for any reason, right? We send them back to your fund and you get to make another grant recommendation with the same funds. The nonprofits at the end of the day have two options for the ways to receive funding. The most popular option, I would say about 95% of the time, is to receive funding via bank wire, right? Nonprofits typically, are used to working in like the traditional fiat world. They we make it really easy for them by sending an ABA bank wire directly into their bank account. Doesn't really require any action from them that they're not used to taking for other donations or working with other donor advised fund providers. We also do, however, allow the option for folks that are working at nonprofits and may have some cryptocurrency knowledge. Maybe they have a nonprofit Ethereum wallet. We offer to just send them the US dollar coins directly into their organization's wallet, which they can do as well. That's about 5% of the time. We're seeing adoption of that kind of activity increase over time. But like I said, the vast majority of orgs are very happy with the bank wire option.
Yeah, what if you had like a project or a startup and you wanted to fund something like that instead, other than a nonprofit? Could that be done as well through Endaoment?
So currently, the only thing that we do at Endaoment is allow you to make tax deductible donations to tax exempt entities, right? So currently, the only recipients of grants on Endaoment are 501c3 nonprofits. So you can't fund just like personal projects or like individual people, right? But there are some kind of interesting things that you can do in this space where you can have an established 501c3 that you're able to give to on Endaoment, and that established 501c3 can partner with, for example, an organization that is in the process of getting their 501c3 status, and they can say, we're going to sponsor this organization, and you can send the money to this sponsor org, the established 501c3. And while we can't send the money directly to that organization that you want to help that just hasn't gotten that 501c3 status yet, this sponsored organization can do things like buy equipment for them, buy supplies for them, kind of pay for space for them, things like that.
Do you have plans to potentially go that direction with Endaoment, or do you guys want to stay focused on 501c3s and tax exempt, donations and stuff like that?
So the answer to that question is really no and yes. So we'll start with the no, and then we'll get to the yes. The no is really that endaoment.org is specifically created so that folks can come on, make donations, get tax receipt for those donations, and then grant out their donated dollars to nonprofits. That's the mission of .org. And continued offerings of .org are going to be like, we have these individual focused donor advised funds. We have created, and we're still in the midst of creating additional community funds, either that are linked with some protocol or linked with some issue area, some philanthropic mission area, right? That's the no part of it. That's where we're really going with the .org piece. Separately from that, there are kind of other avenues that we'd like to investigate in terms of using blockchain technology to change the way that we work with pooled capital. Let me explain. So there are other kinds of tax advantageous accounts that aren't donating to a donor advised fund, which is the most efficient donation-based account you can have. For instance, there are 529 accounts that allow you to raise funds for, sending someone to college, right? I think it would be really cool if we could create an endowment.529 site where you could create essentially 529 funds that are exposed to cryptocurrency in some way. Right. So the additional offerings that we have down the road, the things that we're thinking about for expanding what Endaoment does on the .org side, right, is all donation based. We do want to embrace our namesake, build an endowment, right? We want that DAO piece. We want to give over some of the governance roles to our community to elect our board of directors using a DAO vote, right? And then separately, we have these other ideas about, not donation-based, but ways to deal with pooled capital to give those accounts kind of exposure to the crypto world and see what kind of new offerings we can come up with in that way.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could do with pooled capital, in creating funds outside of just 501c3s. You could do a lot of community-based things to fund like community projects and stuff like that. I don't know. I could see a lot of different ways that you guys could go with Endaoment outside of that. It'd be kind of cool to see how that shapes up in the future. But what kind of cryptos do you guys accept for donations? Do you just accept like the basic ones like Bitcoin and Ethereum and like USDC, or do you accept other altcoins too?
So we accept other altcoins too. We're not limited to just like the top 2 or even the top 10 by market cap. Within our application, we accept, I believe it's about 150 different forms of cryptocurrency that are on the Ethereum blockchain. So anywhere from, Ethereum or Link or Uni, and all the way to, Maker and Sushi and Synthetics. Like we are, I guess, currency agnostic in terms of the way that we accept currency on platform. And if there are any additional, cryptocurrencies that are growing in popularity on the Ethereum blockchain, we're going to go into our back end. We're going to unlock that token. We're going to allow folks to donate that token directly. And like I said earlier, if there are tokens that are not on the Ethereum blockchain that we don't accept directly, right? Something like a Dogecoin, which we actually did have a donation of Dogecoin about 3 weeks ago. We come up with ways to basically accept those donations in an over-the-counter way. It's not, built into our UI, but we'll make it happen. If there are folks out there that have cryptocurrency and want to give, be it Cardano, be it an ERC20, be it something else, we're here and ready to figure out a way to accept it.
Yeah. How much have you guys have seen donated thus far? Do you have, stats for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So those stats are actually public on our site, and we're always going to keep them public, but I'll give them to you right now. We launched in October of last year. We've actually seen the majority of donations come in 2021, but so far we've had $2.7 million donated to donor advised funds and community funds in endowment. And we've granted out about $1.9 million that have come in, which means that, just some quick math here, there's about 800K left in donor advised funds that folks have yet to grant out to organizations. And that could be because they haven't decided on an organization that they want to grant to yet, or it could just because the donors are on their own schedule. And that's the really nice thing, or one of the really nice things I should say, about donor advised funds, that you can give a gift all at once. And as soon as you give that gift, you'll get a tax receipt. You just made a donation, right? You get credit for that donation, but you can grant out those monies however you wish. Because we don't charge any kind of like yearly fee based on AUM, our users know that if it takes them a week or a year or 2 years, that the fees are going to be exactly the same, because again, we don't want to make money on dollars sitting idle in donor advised funds. We want our organizational incentives to be aligned with our mission. Get that money out the door to nonprofits that can use it to make an impact.
Yeah. What is the reason that it gets tied up in those donor advised funds and doesn't get sent out to organizations? Is it just, the funds being set up and not knowing where to send it out? Or is there another logistic reason?
So that's a great question. It's part of it is definitely because folks want to make the donation, want that tax deduction, but don't necessarily know where they want to give their donation yet, right? So something that we're doing to address that is we're creating a number of different community funds. A great example is the crypto carbon offset fund, which is essentially a fund used to kind of pool capital, and we distribute that capital 3 organizations, Carbon Fund, Cool Effect, and BEF, that all directly source and purchase carbon offsets, right? The idea there is that, we are putting blockchain assets to use in order to offset the negative externalities of blockchain technology, because like currently Ethereum is still a proof of work blockchain. We haven't gone through the merge yet, so we haven't been able to reduce our energy consumption collectively as a blockchain. We thought this was a good idea, but to go a little bit farther into it, this is actually the main nonprofit criticism of existing donor advised funds, is that money gets put in donor advised funds and doesn't come out, right? I quoted that 22% per year figure for traditional donor advised fund disbursement, right? Nonprofits don't like that. And to be honest, we don't like that either. We don't think that's great. Again, we want money out the door. That's accomplishing our mission. So you also have to kind of bring into this that Fidelity and Schwab and Vanguard, great organizations. I don't think that they're putting roadblocks in place for making grants. But that said, they are directly financially incentivized to not make that process easy, to kind of drag out the grant making process so that they're able to claim additional fee revenue, right? So basically, those are the 2 main reasons that I see funds getting stagnant in donor advised funds. One, we have this traditional problem of misaligned incentives. And then two, we have this question of, I know that I wanted a tax receipt because I know, or I want a tax receipt for my donation, right? Because I know what capital gains income I need to offset this year, but I don't know what to do with it now. So we're trying to make that easier as well.
Yeah, I know there are a lot of people that want to take that tax deduction. So this is probably a good avenue for them. They're probably going to be listening to this and be like, oh, I could just, make a crypto donation and not have to pay so much taxes on crypto.
Yeah.
So many people that have that issue this year.
Exactly. Especially, after a bull run when people have taken gains, right? And I think that one of the most exciting parts of a donor advised fund, and this is true for all donor advised funds that have existed, in this country for the better part of half a century. When you donate to a donor advised fund, it doesn't look like making a normal donation, right? If you had 1 Bitcoin and you held it from 10,000 up to 50 and sold it, you'd have a gain of 40K. You'd have to pay capital gains tax on that gain. And then you could donate the remainder, assuming you wanted to donate all parts of that asset. In a donor advised fund, you don't have to go through that process, right? You take that asset, you send it to us, we liquidate that asset. And because we're a tax exempt 501c3 entity, we don't have to pay the capital gains tax on that asset. You get, if it's a long-term appreciated gain, you get the full deduction of the worth of that asset. And the nonprofit recipient also gets the full amount of that asset that you just donated. So in that way, we're super efficient. We get more money that's donated to the place it's going, and we get a higher receipt, like a higher tax deduction receipt for our users who are pretty used to needing to actually sell assets before donating them. And in that way, donor advised funds have got to be, and they are, at least in my opinion, kind of the unknown secret weapon of modern portfolio management theory. And they're really not used or talked about outside of pretty wealthy communities.
Mm-hmm. That's so nice. I'm going to need that at some point, honestly. And I know a lot of people that find it beneficial to be able to take a tax deduction and make a donation rather than just give it to the IRS. Yeah, a lot of people are going to have that issue this year. One more question before we start wrapping it up and everything.
Sure.
Where's your community at? Do you guys have a Discord or a Telegram? Where do people come together that kind of chat about the stuff that you guys are doing with Endaoment and where the people are making their donations and where people are chit-chatting?
Yeah, so our biggest platform for discussion is definitely Discord. We have a Twitter as well. That Twitter mainly serves as making announcements that are, really key and important. I would definitely drive folks toward our Discord. We have a number of different channels for organizations to meet donors, for donors to meet organizations, right? For tech support, just for kind of discussion about, future integrations that folks would like to see, or ideas that people have for ways to build out different kind of donation capability here. And I'm very happy to say that it's been a rapidly growing community. I'm excited to be on this show talking to you because it seems like every time that Robbie or I get on a podcast and have a discussion, we have a whole new group of people coming over, joining our application. And, depending on the kind of user they are, they're either creating a donor advised fund and are excited to make a donation or be ready to make a donation, towards the end of the year. Or they're a nonprofit that's excited to say, we've actually had a bunch of people who said, I want to donate Bitcoin, I want to donate Ethereum, and we've turned them away before. It sounds like we don't have to do that anymore. Can you tell me more about that? And honestly, my favorite conversations to have are getting on the phone with nonprofits and helping them to understand that they don't have to expose themselves to any of the kind of risky parts of working with cryptocurrency, and instead can just reap the benefit. We take care of, we're crypto off-ramp for nonprofits, right? We take care of that whole process. And if nonprofits want to use that bank wire option that we were talking about before, they actually don't need to create a digital wallet. They don't need to interact with cryptocurrency in any way. That said, we think that educating them on cryptocurrency, getting them comfortable in this world is going to help these folks, these nonprofit professionals, feel more comfortable about crypto, about blockchain. And eventually, we think it's going to lead to additional cryptocurrency adoption in the mainstream.
It definitely will. It hits a different corner of the market. It's really cool to be able to talk to, people like you guys that are, blockchain focused, but have a philanthropic side to it. You surprisingly don't see that as often. I think a lot of people in the
Mhm.
space just think because they're working in crypto and blockchain that that is philanthropic in a lot of ways, but they don't, combine traditional, methods like that with blockchain to, create solutions like this. So it's kind of cool to hear what you guys are doing with endowment and everything. And, having that, in the space and that opportunity, that angle where, people can make donations with crypto if they want to, which I think has kind of been lacking. I'm surprised that there aren't more ways to donate with crypto, given how easy it is to just, to send to anybody. So it's cool to
It
see
is.
that you
It's
guys are doing
surprising.
that. That
Thank
is a
you.
little
Thank you.
surprising.
And thank you for
Anyways,
those kind words.
yeah, of course. Anyways, we'll wrap it up there. Zach, thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast, talk about endowments, talk about everything you guys are doing with donor advised funds and 501c3s and tax donations, which is awesome. And I'm definitely going to need in the future as well. So yeah, thank you for making the time today.
No problem. Thanks for having me on. It was my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for being such a gracious host. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Stay on for just a second. I'll talk to you. Otherwise, we'll talk again in the future on the podcast.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.